What's up, everyone? I was going to talk a bit today about how to get back into running if you have reached a point where you've maybe had certain injuries, maybe nagging pains, or maybe every time you go out you just have some weird feelings in your knees, hips, or your ankles. So this, I'm going to address first off what everyone typically does wrong and why they get these pains and how they can actually get back to running without pain and maybe even doing some races or sprints or things like that. So this is kind of where I started after going through all of my bodybuilding and powerlifting years. And what started to happen was I started to get very tight, and running is basically your body has to be able to lock out through the hip and the ankle to generate force. And something that starts to happen from sitting, as well as starting to just overload, add weights onto a weak foundation. What started to happen was then when I would go move and express myself in certain ways, I would end up with pain, or I wouldn't be able to go longer than a mile or things like that. So what I was lacking, what most people are also lacking, is when I would go to lock out, my glute wouldn't be able to activate because I didn't have enough flexibility. My hip flexors were extremely tight, and I didn't have very good overhead mobility. My overhead mobility was absolutely terrible because the only time I raised my hands over my head was doing a dumbbell press or a military press or something like that. And whenever your spine is getting locked into place, and when you're bodybuilding, powerlifting, the only time you use your spine or brace your spine is to brace it so it doesn't move at all. So you basically become strong in this braced position, but then anytime you go to move or do something awkward, that is when you get hurt because you don't train for it. Not everything, like lifting up a kid, for example, you know, lifting it up awkward or reaching across the car to get a kid is very different than a perfect linear deadlift from the ground. You know, it's like, yeah, you can do that with no problem because it's very controlled, but when life happens, that's when people tend to get hurt. So what you can start to do is train more like an athlete again and start to regain the ability to twist, to run, and to jump. Because if you lose those things, you do not get them back unless you train them. So it's way better off to not lose the ability in the first place. So you'll even see, you know, like a 1-year-old, 1.5-year-old, they are squatting all the time. They have perfect form. You know, they're strong in a flexible way and a way where they can also have posture. And people slowly lose this ability as they start to become an adult. And the more or the worse you get, the quicker you're going to end up either with a surgery or just end up in this sedentary lifestyle that doesn't do anyone any good. So when you do that, you're not going to have the physique you want, you're not going to feel how you want, and you're probably going to have to cope and indulge in things that make you forget that you're failing anyway. So it's not really a fun place to be in. So if you're kind of in that position, you know, you go through this transition from, you know, I used to be able to do all of these things, and now all of the things that I was doing are giving me pain. So what do you really do from there? And, you know, if you don't have a coach, or if you don't have someone kind of guiding you through it, it can be a very frustrating process. But what I would say is remaster your body weight again. Stop being so reliant on machines and the gym, because they will not teach you to move better. They're great for cosmetics. However, if you're at the point where you're having pain and you can't even get back to running and jumping and feeling good, then the gym or just machines and free weights, that's not really what you need to be focusing on. Because if you have pain doing barbell back squats, all that tells me is that you are unable to get into the position properly. You probably have movement restrictions, and I'm going to assume that you haven't even mastered your own body weight yet. Because if you can't feel your quads working properly on a barbell back squat, then you need to regress to a different movement. And 90% of the people that I see doing barbell lifts aren't even ready for them anyway. And they're only basically speed running to the couch. So that's really all they're doing. Instead of couch to 5K, it's basically gym to couch. So they're just speed running it, and that's why about the average lifespan of a gym membership is like 6 months, not even. And then if you go over to the people that actually go 2 or more times a week, it's a way smaller percentage. So there's kind of this illusion that, oh, you just do this and you go in there and you get jacked and that's really all you have to do. It couldn't be further from the truth. 80% of these people that are over the age of 35 are constantly in and out of PT or complete being sedentary. So they go on good spurts. They'll hit the gym maybe a couple months in a row. They'll get hurt. They'll go to PT. Then they'll take a break. And they're kind of just on this constant cycle, not reaching the physique they want, not feeling as good as they want, and they can't sprint, jump, or twist. So it's like, what are you really accomplishing besides just wasting your time? And a lot of the things that you can be doing and should be doing regarding your body weight, it's free. It does not, you don't need equipment. Some equipment can help, like dip bars or a pull-up bar or something like that. But the average person needs to get strong at the most basic of things. Reactivating the core, get the hollow hold, get to the point where you can do a handstand hold. That is one of the things that is going to really help your upper back mobility. Start doing the back extension. If you can't run yet, you need to master the ability to skip and jump rope, and just activating that ankle stiffness. Because when you're doing like a skip or a pogo hop and you're staying on the balls of your feet, you're just hitting the ground and tapping, coming right back up. So that allows your tendons and your ligaments to get used to that stiff position. So then when you do that, you can start to have some integrity in the ankle. Instead of just trying to go out for a long run, your feet are just flopping everywhere. If you've never been trained in running mechanics, you're probably going to have some issues anyway. But you're not going to be doing yourself any favors if you're just constantly going into the weight room side of things and then just running. You're going to deteriorate very fast because you're not doing any of the things that are going to keep you mobile for the lifting portion, and you're not doing anything to aid in the mobility of the running portion. So putting two things that are going to make you extremely tight together, once again, you're speed running to the couch or to PT. So that is not what you want. If you need, it's hard to tell where everybody is at, but I always break it down into 3 categories just to make it simple. Phase 1 is mastering your discipline of your nutrition, because if you can't get to the desired weight that you want, if you have 100 pounds to lose, it does not matter what program you're doing. What you should be focusing on is disciplining what goes in and out of your own mouth, as well as moving again and making that a habit. Because if you can't focus on what's coming in and out of your mouth, you're not going to be able to control your input and your output as far as physical activity. So all you should be focusing on is getting to that goal weight where you can start to actually use your body again. Because if you're too heavy, you're not going to be able to body weight squat, you're not going to be able to push up, you're not going to be able to row, you're not going to be able to do anything. So that just means you're not there yet. You need to focus on losing the weight, and then we will slowly start to get you back into these and mastering these positions that are going to help you with the body integrity. And so once you get to the weight, then we can start actually getting the strength in order. Reawakening your athleticism, like I said, get you to be able to do all the progressions into the running, the jumping, as well as the twisting. Once you get there, then you can actually focus on getting back to the things that you want to be doing, which if it's a race, pick up basketball, playing with your kids, it doesn't really matter. However, like I said, that is the process you should be taking. Most people have no foundation of strength. They go right into barbell lifts and free weights. They completely get all these compensations and mobility limitations, and then they end up in PT or the couch. So that is the cycle of the average weightlifter bro. And if you don't learn how to master this part of it too, you're basically just wasting your time. Because what is the point of putting all that effort into a physique that you can't maintain for the rest of your life? What's the point of looking good from 20 to 30? That is, that should be a requisite. That shouldn't really be that hard in the first place. So that's not really flex. The flex is looking good into your older years, or looking good when you have kids and a family. because that is where most people struggle. Anyone can be in shape when they have nothing else to do. So if you want to work with me, leave me a comment, send me a message on Instagram at ShakeRoyCoach. If this makes sense to you, I'd love to see if I could help you out.